Greetings and salutations. So this is my showcase video on the MCRN Colony Ship 2, and I've scaled this thing up. There's three different versions. I mean, they're the same ship, but the versions are the scalability, and so you can download which version you want from the workshop. And I've used these and played them in the survival campaign, and I put about 10 hours into it before they dropped the Phase 6 patch, and so before I did a restart. And so what the way that I did this is kind of the intent. Of course, you can continue to upgrade this and modify it and add more guns, but I felt that this was adequate for the kind of conflict that I've experienced. But the reason why I call this a colony ship is it's more multi-role function than combat. It's more planetary exploration, and it's got enough hangar and deck space to have some very niche uh, purpose role vehicles like a tank or a drone. And so these two top turrets are your drill and your salvage um, miners, and then you have your four retractable, and then you have your two on each side, so a total of four rocket, and then four pulse to break down the lasers. And this thing is, the way that everything kind of integrates into this thing. I can just click on turrets, right, and then just retract the turrets, and you can just see all of these things. Okay, they're supposed to suck in. What did I miss? That was thrusters, turrets. Okay, and you can just see how everything pulls in, and it's real streamlined. And of course, these are under the harvester settings, and I do need to devices, harvester. Where are you at? It's up here. Harvester, right here. Harvester, and then I just retract these, and and everything pulls in, and it's very streamlined. And the nice thing about this is the reason why it's the colony ship is because lots of deck space, all the lighting, lots of deco setup. But the reason why it's colony is because it has 96 grow plots, and so you can have quite a bit of vegetation and crop. And then this thing is scalable tremendously. And so of course you have your med bay, and then you have your kind of community area, and then I've put in the warp drive behind the glass. And I might continue to develop this, because once you live in a space, you use it in the survival. It kind of modifies your experience and what you need out of it. And I used kind of the standard setup as the Pioneer, Jeff Randall's Pioneer, but I maintained all the themes and the lighting as that MCRN. I kind of ran with that current. I really like that, but I changed up a few of the colors. All the industrial stuff is orange. Um, I put more oxygen tanks in here as a default because of the oxygen you need to run the crops. And one of my kind of issues with the Pioneer was that it did, the crop space was limited. And I have that right here. This is Jeff Randall's, and he's the inspiration behind a lot of this. And he also kind of set the standard on what the expectation is on texturing and LCD screens and lighting. So whenever I try to build something, I try to build to that standard. And thanks Jeff for your kind of shaping my comprehension of how to build or what to build to. And so here's, and this is a couple of adaptations. So this one is kind of like the fully geared out. This one, and you can see that the thrusters in here, and under tier 3, I have the large thrusters, and this thing can lift a significant amount of weight. It's got two 320K storage bays, and it's got an 80K ore and an 80K ammo. And so it's quite capable, and you can actually do more but I wanted to leave some CPU room for additional upgrades. And so when you go in here and you look at the CPU, it's it's 100 and it's not quite 150,000. So you still got 350,000 left on your CPU, so you can add more tanks. But I really felt that I didn't need any more of that. And the thing with this is it's a multi-role ship. It's not a combat ship. It's kind of planetary, galaxy exploration. With enough storage space and enough deck space for some very multi-role CVs and HVs. So here's kind of the segue, or the entry level, well, mid entry level, to where all the guns are stripped out of it, and you can see where I've marked it with where turrets are going to go. And I tried to reduce the cost significantly, so this will get you into, I've taken all the glow plots out, and the big thing with this is it's reduced the cost significantly. Um, and all the lighting's worked, and then it still has the thrusters. I've downgraded the thrusters to the medium, but it still can handle all the lift. It's still pretty capable. It's just the intent behind this. And so I've left these open like this because you can fill these full of fuel tanks and oxygen tanks and additional storage. So there's kind of an upgrade path in here to kind of further mod this significantly. And so there's quite a bit of customization you can do to this as your needs change, and that was part of the intent behind this design. Well, and I've kind of left these stripes in here for reference, so that way you can get a basis of where the center is, and you can add thrusters accordingly in here and not change the overall appearance or functionality or design of this. And I've marked them. I've using Randall's technique of marking where turrets, thrusters go, and in the front here I put kind of the little 6-wheel icon for where turrets go and lasers go. And then so I started a single player survival playthrough to see how functional this was. And I shot down a capital ship with my drone. I recorded it and I'll upload that on my channel. But I was able to salvage all the engines out of it, and the cockpit and everything out of it. And so I was like, you know what? Let me see if I can pull in my colony ship and retrofit all of that stuff I salvaged from that ship that that colony ship that I killed in game. And I was able to fully function this thing. I mean, I had to kind of cheese it a little bit with small thrusters in the front and mix match thrusters, but I was able to get it off the ground and get it into outer space and then start salvaging ships out of space. So the nice thing about this is there's no neodymium. This material cost to get into this is just 5,000 here. Let's pull it up. 5,000. Where are you at? Right here. I call it bare, like bare bones, right? So iron, 5,200 iron, substrate 1,500, silicone 1,500, 280. Like there's cobalt 65, titanium 33, 20 neodymium, right? And 2 wood planks. This is easily obtainable early game. You kill 1 POI and dismantle it, and you can put this thing together and summon it. Now, of course, I pulled out all the deco. I pulled out all the deco. I pulled out all the common area, and I pulled out all of the med bay stuff, and I even pulled out the generators and all of the medical base stuff and all the oxygen tanks and all the fuel tanks, except for the one there and the one there. But that's the deal, is that the idea is this is a husk that you can summon into the game, and as you salvage the stuff through your journey, you can progressively upgrade this thing along the way, and I really like that, and I've marked this stuff out so that the measurements and kind of the geometry and math has already been figured out on this, and I really like that play style in a survival game, is just kind of salvage as you go, right? Scavenge, salvage as you go. So I want to talk about a few different design aspects of this because I wanted to maintain the original MCRN kind of theme, right? I wanted to maintain the pioneer. So and part of that process was I took the Pioneer and I basically hacked it up. I cut it into about 8 pieces, and then I just spread it out and filled in the blocks between it in order to get the dimensions and the shape the same way to keep the theme. And as many of very similar design cues, even though the colony ship is much larger. It's a block higher, and there are significant changes, but I was able to retain generally most of the feel. I made a few tweaks, like adding the stripes behind the constructor, but I did that for I tried to make the door bigger, but it was kind of one of those odd shapes where whenever I go one wider, it would stagger off. And if I got it to fit right, then it would be 2 tiles too high. So the door ended up being the same, but I filled it full of the glass, more glass to kind of match the front of the ship, because it's that multi-role kind of colony planetary exploration aspect of it. So it's kind of more taking those views as you progressively explore the constellation. And plus it gives you kind of a window when you're let's say you're trying to flip the back of the ship around, so that way you can land your ship next to a water point or a lake to harvest stuff, or get you can just look and see where you're at through the window. So there's more visibility option. But so as far as the design aspect goes, I wanted to maintain that. But one of the things I realized is my first concept of this, and I had to go back and reshape these side, um, kind of turret haulers, or not turret haulers, turret and engine platform mounts. The side carrying bays, these things right here on the side, the two tile wide. Because when you look at the shape of the Draper, right, the Draper Merc, you can see that the angles on this, because was my original one was this, right? You can see there's a whole bunch of adaptations in here trying to work out shapes and dimensions. And how I started this was with this. This is what I started this thing with. And you can see that the angles on the front here, although nice, although a good shape, they don't actually match the angles of the MCRN. And so it took me a little bit to figure out the correct block combination to pull those design cues in to where I needed them to be, in order to match that concurrent theme. And that's my goal, is to just continue to develop on that current team. Even though I really dig the whole MCRN, I don't like the idea of it meaning Mars. There needs to be a community consensus that M stands for something else, like macaroni or Marco or uh, Misono, or I don't know, something, right? So that way it's not directly competing with other IPs that exist in the market, and doesn't compromise the Empyrion game developers. But there's enough MCRN game content out of there for it to actually be its own faction. I downloaded every MCRN off the workshop, and I spawned them in on a single map, and I play tested all of them to see which ones are functional and which ones are just out of date due to CPU and thruster load and mass and volume. And about 95% of them were functional. Some of them, even though they were called MCRN, didn't match the theme. They were off on color palettes and design. So I didn't really include those, but I counted over 20 vehicles. 20 vehicles and something like 6 structures that fit within the MCRN theme. And so it could absolutely be its own faction, like definitely be its own faction. So back to the design queue. The segue is the problem is if you're going to stick with the MCR theme, this ship is a fantastic ship, but you do outgrow it, and the reason why you outgrow it is strictly due to the grow plots. You outgrow it quickly because of the grow plots. And one of the issues that I noticed is this space down here underneath the grow plots needs to be a little bit redesigned and more functional. I think if this was just opened up a little bit, and this space right here, maybe just was closed off, and then you extended the grow plot. I keep on saying grow pots out, and get that capability, to where it's filled up, and then move. It's tough. It's tough. It's a tough one. But that's the issue with this is your life support is lacking, or your food survival support. I'm trying to think of the right terminology to get that right. Is kind of lacking in that aspect due to the lack of grow plots, and because it's this amount of grow plots is arguably hard to keep up on sustainment of food when you're in a serious playthrough, unless you're actually supporting it through harvesting stuff off planets itself. But I noticed some planets, it's really hard to get certain materials. So, but I do like the size of this. It's a little bit more manageable. It's the thruster placement is fantastic on this. One of the issues that I noticed with this one is there are a few more thrusters that need to be, like, this is the minimum, right? This gets you by, but it does need another one back here. But those can be salvaged, so I left those out intentionally. But this one handles a little better side to side on that straight due to how far forward it was. But the good thing is on this one, you can tuck all that stuff on the inside of this. Every bit of this can be tucked in these I got to come up with a good name for this area right here, this hollow area, because there's a lot of expandability that exists within here. And I've actually been debating doing another one of these, but scaling it down to this size. And what I'm gonna do is, instead of making it a double wide, this is 2 blocks thick. I'm gonna do 1 block thick, and I'm gonna do a smaller like this. I might end up changing the name to this to like Galactic, or System Colony Ship, or Galactic Colony Ship. And then the smaller, the 1 notch down smaller ship might be the System Colony Ship, or Sectional Colony. I don't know. I'm still working on a name, but it's to match that concurrent theme and system. But I'm real happy with this. I'm really happy with this because this gives you enough grow plots to where you can get into the kind of the specialty recipes that you need, with the sweeteners and some of the other stuff. Just do kind of your unique medicines that you need to grow. Because with the other one, you're just doing food. You're just kind of limited to food, and so that's where I'm at. I'm pretty happy with this. You know, a little every once in a while I'll come across a little tiny, tiny little area where it's still blue. You know, the subsect is blue, but for the most part, I didn't do a whole lot of crazy texturing on the bottom of this. I probably need to go back and do it. I did some more on oh, see, I missed one right there. I missed it right there. But the problem is sometimes I come in here and I could have sworn I did it, and then I'll come in here and then I'll be like, oh, there's a patch that's missing, and I'm like, I know I did that, and I think part of the issue is I'm kind of because I've segued these out. I'm kind of working on 3 versions, and so it's one of those things where uh, you know, you try to keep it one version and then split the difference, because it's too much. It's too time consuming to re-pull. You know, when you make the modification after you realize something, you got to go back. Oh, see, perfect right here. So I've fixed this now, like 3 times, and so I got to do it again. There, and I know this is the same too. Same, right? Okay, because I know I fixed it on these. Nope. Okay. Yep, right here. And so that's part of the issue with the design. Okay, maybe it's fixed on this one. No, wow. I know I've done this a couple of times, so I don't know what the issue is. But just as there are some little tweaks that need to be altered on here, and so let me fix this. But I'm going to upload all 3 of these to the workshop, and hopefully I get some feedback on from the folks on what they think about it, or if they like it or don't like it, or what issues they have, or maybe there'll be some modification on these that for kind of further development or a further interpretation on gameplay, on I thought okay, yeah, further interpretation on my project, but if it wasn't, I'm going to say this again, and I'm not trying to be all on Randall's junk. I'm just saying that if it wasn't for his projects, I've downloaded quite a bit of stuff, and I'll be like, meh. But if it wasn't for his level of detail and kind of a conceptual design and the way to use the current systems to fragment stuff up and give it a more of a visual appeal, kind of work with these large blocks, because these things are large blocks. Oh, look, this whole section right here is not filled in. Because these are large blocks, it's a challenge to kind of disguise some of this stuff. And because it's such a challenge, you have to do it through like building 2 layers of stuff, and there's definitely a technique that exists, that you have to, lining up textures and getting stuff kind of dialed in a certain way to where they look right, and matching stuff is a big component of it. And so um, you know but anyways, this is going to be I'm going to close this video out. I'm going to finish up these textures. I know I've done this like 4 or 5 times, and then I'm going to dump them on the workshop, and then hopefully you folks get out there and kind of mess around with it and give me some feedback if you like them or don't like them. Thoughts on the functionality, and I'll load up the survival gameplay also, just to show what they're like in 12.6 or 12.5 experimental, fully functional, like, and basically put together from salvaged CVs in the game. And so that aspect of the playthrough I really enjoyed as well. That's just something to kind of take away from it. And yeah, thanks for watching.